workflow that I'm going to be showing is the WebXR kit that we have. So Ian has already talked a little bit about Spark.js, which is basically a 3JS-based renderer that runs in your browser for Splats as well. And I mean, this is like really, really, really nicely optimized. So you can render a lot of Splats with Spark.js 2.0. And the kit that we're offering for the hackathon is essentially a WebXR integration for Spark.js. So this is a very different kind of workflow than what people are used to when they come from traditional game engines. This all runs in a browser, which also means that it runs on essentially any XR hardware, except for, I guess, Apple Vision Pro, because they don't yet support WebXR. But it runs on Quest, on Pico headsets. I even ran this on the Spectacles. Yeah, it's even if you might be unfamiliar with sort of like web development workflows, it's very, very easy to get started, especially with our kit. And nowadays, even more so if you're using things like Claude or like Codex. I already talked a little bit about the high performance. It's extremely impressive. You saw Ian's demo earlier where they showed like 40 million splats running in a browser. And yeah, exactly. And Unity-like interactions, I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I think this is actually what really rounds this off nicely. Then, in addition to Spark.js, we have something called IWSDK, which is also an open source SDK for getting essentially VR, AR support for within the browser. This is maintained by Meta, but it's also an open source, so you can also make pull requests. And it gives you Unity-like components like XR interactions, locomotions, UI, anchors, physics, pass-through. So you can make essentially very similar experiences to what you would usually do in Unity, but you can do it in the web now. And they also provide a emulator. I think Nigel showed this briefly in his own segment, where you can test your experience without needing to put on a XR headset, which is very handy, and I'm going to show that in a second. So yeah, this is sort of like the whole point of this kit. I think that the immersive web SDK and Spark.js together is a really great pipeline for getting world models or I suppose Gaussian splats in a XR context. It's yeah, this is our open source kit. Essentially, it really, we have solved all the hard technical complexity for you already. It's pretty simple to install this. It has a couple of pre-built components for faster development. So we provide interactions, as you can see here, basic UI that you can also use, and animations for the splats where you have sort of like this fade-in animation and that kind of stuff. So things that you might want to use anyway, we've already sort of like built this in a way where it's also fairly easy for a coding agent to work with this. Yeah, for vibe coding, this is basically really, really good. And during our last hackathon, I think more than half of the participants used this kit. Right. Before I talk too much over the slides, I'm just going to show you. So what you will see when you download the repo and you open it is that there are a couple of errors, which is, for example, here, 3JS is missing, IWSDK is missing. If you don't come from web development, this is fairly simple. All you need to do is to type npm install, and this will then download all of the packets that are required to run this. So it will create a folder and download all the dependencies. For the sake of this session, I have already done that. It doesn't take super long, but I didn't want to waste the time with it. So this will essentially create this node modules folder here that has here, for example, Babylon.js, Spark.js, and now all of the arrows are essentially gone. And there is just one more command that you need to know. You really only need to know two, and this is like npm run dev, which then runs the development server. this is basically pressing play in your game engine. That would be sort of the equivalent to it. And this is going to open up a browser. But I'm going to use the browser within cursor because I think it's better. Right. Let's give it a second to spin up. And well, now you are essentially in the splat itself. You can also see that it's the same splat that I showed in Unreal, and it just looks a little bit better. It's just this tiny little bit crisper. It's a bit smoother. And we can take a look at the emulator as well that is built in into the IWSDK. So you get two controllers with all the button mappings. So you can walk around like this. Can rotate, you can move the controllers around, or there's also sort of like a game engine mode where you can walk around with WASD. It's a little bit laggy because I'm streaming, but yeah, you can then also interact with anyway, but you can then also interact with the individual objects. I'm just going to have to reload them. Window. Right. Just a few things about the project structure. It's quite simple. If you want to load your own, splat, you can essentially tell Claude to change it. The whole project is set up in a way where a coding agent will understand it really easily. Yeah, and that's essentially it. If you choose to use this, I really wish you a lot of fun in vibe coding XR applications with Gaussian splats, because that's what I do, and that's what a lot of other people have also been doing. And it really is just a very fun way to work. Right. So a couple of examples. I'm only going to glimpse over this, but this would be one of the examples where it's a language learning app that uses Gaussian splats as the environments, and then all the sort of like language learning app functionality is then built within WebXR. There's also a demo here. And this was during a Sensei hackathon in Barcelona